She spiked my drink at the dinner table, in front of everyone, including her own son. But instead of drinking it, I swapped glasses with her husband. What happened next exposed secrets no one in that room was ready for, including me. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about survival, revenge, and a woman who turned her pain into power. Studio microphone, stay with me, because by the time this story ends, you'll never look at your family dinner the same again. Hello, my beautiful family online. Welcome to ZITA'S Stories, where every tale holds truth, every moment unlocks emotion, and every twist reveals something about us. Whether you're here for inspiration, healing, or just a jaw-dropping story, you're in the right place. Today's story isn't just entertainment, it's a wake-up call. It's about trust broken at the table of love. A woman married into a family expecting warmth, but found poison in her cup, literally. And when she switched glasses, the truth unraveled like wildfire. I want you to stay till the end, not just because it's dramatic, not just because it's shocking, but because in this story, there's strength. There's strategy. There's you, the version of you that refuses to be silenced, manipulated, or destroyed by anyone, not even by the ones who smile across your dinner table. So grab your seat. Open your heart. And let's begin. The candlelight flickered softly over the crystal glasses as the scent of roasted duck and truffle potatoes wafted through the elegant dining room. The table was set to perfection, an evening meant to celebrate my first wedding anniversary with Daniel. His mother, Margot Delacroix, insisted on hosting it at their estate in the French countryside. Everything about the place screamed opulence, white pillars, marble floors, servants in white gloves, and yet beneath the luxury, something always felt off. Margot had never liked me. Not from the first moment Daniel brought me home. I wasn't good enough, she said once, when she thought I couldn't hear. Too plain, too middle class, too American. But Daniel loved me. He was the only son of a powerful French family with roots tracing back to nobility. Despite his family's coldness, he chose me, a schoolteacher from Illinois. We met while he was doing a guest lecture at my university. It was whirlwind and passionate. We married within 6 months. But Margot never forgave him for choosing love over legacy. That night, at dinner, I knew she was planning something. I could feel it in her eyes, sharp and watching me too closely, her lips curled just slightly into what looked like a smile but felt like a snare. As I sat between Daniel and his father, Laurent, I saw her hand hover above the table. She picked up a wine glass, a very specific one. Mine. And then she smiled. Not the usual condescending smile. This was different. She set the glass before me with deliberate care, her rings glinting like blades in the candlelight. To love, she said, lifting her own glass. May it always be, honest. Everyone toasted. Glasses clinked. But just before I raised mine to drink, I paused. Something was wrong. The glass had a faint scent, bitter and herbal, like crushed pills hidden in a strong perfume. I looked at her. She looked away too quickly. In that moment, a quiet fury welled up in me. Not fear. Not panic. Fury. She was going to hurt me. She wanted me out. And she was bold enough to do it in front of everyone. So I did something bold in return. Quietly, carefully, while everyone else was laughing and distracted, I reached across and swapped my glass with Lawrence. He was chuckling at something Daniel said, not paying attention. The switch was smooth, undetected. I smiled at Margot. And then I drank. So did Laurent. The sins of the matriarch. It didn't take long. Within 15 minutes, Lawrence's hand trembled as he tried to cut into his duck. He knocked over a glass of water. Then he slumped forward, face pale, lips twitching. Daniel shot up from his chair. Papa? The table exploded into chaos. Servants rushed. Margot screamed. But I watched her carefully, her hands clutched to her chest, eyes fixed, not on Laurent, but on me. Her face drained of color. She knew. She knew the wrong person drank it. Laurent was rushed to the estate's private clinic. Daniel went with him. Margot stayed behind, shaking, pretending to cry. I stood. She looked up at me. "What did you do?" she hissed. "I should be asking you that, shouldn't I?" I whispered back. She stood quickly, grabbing my wrist with surprising strength. "You stupid girl. You have no idea what you've just done. Poison and politics." By morning, Laurent was in a coma. The family doctor, an old friend of the Delacroix, said it was a stroke. But I knew better. And Margot knew that I knew. I stayed silent at first. Not because I was afraid. But because I needed proof. I went to Laurent's private study, one Margot never entered, and started digging. Within his locked drawers were files, notebooks, and, oddly, a personal journal. Laurent had been documenting Margot's behavior for years. She'd been trying to gain control over the estate, the finances, everything. Their marriage was nothing more than a performance. And Laurent? He was preparing to divorce her. But more than that, he was going to expose her. There were notes about other women Daniel had dated, who mysteriously disappeared or were pushed away. One even filed a police report. Then retracted it. Margot had been protecting her empire for decades. I was just the latest threat. But now, Laurent was unconscious, and the world believed it was natural. Unless I changed that. The surveillance. I knew Margot wouldn't stop. If Laurent survived, she'd finish the job. If I opened my mouth, she'd discredit me. Maybe worse. So I set up cameras. Hidden in the house. In the garden. Even in the guest room where I stayed. I began recording everything. Then, one night, I caught her on tape, talking on the phone to someone named Pascal. She switched the glasses. Laurent was supposed to take his pills after dinner, but the dosage was adjusted. I didn't think she'd be clever enough. Pause. No, I can't go to jail. Not again. Pause. Yes. Yes, I know what to do next. A plan within a plan. The next day, I visited a lawyer in Paris. I presented the video. He nearly dropped his espresso. "This is attempted murder," he said. "I want protection," I replied. "And I want to bring her down legally. Publicly." We made a plan. Quietly. Strategically. Margot thought I was just a scared little wife. But I wasn't. I was methodical. I was patient. I was married to her son. And now, I had nothing to lose. Trial by fire. It took 3 weeks to get everything in place. Evidence. Testimonies. Even old reports from women Margot had threatened. The police acted swiftly after my lawyer submitted the footage. They raided the estate at 5 a.m. Margot was in her silk robe, shouting at the officers in French, calling them pigs. Daniel stood frozen, horrified. She looked at me with venom as they cuffed her. "You did this." "No," I replied. "You did." The courtroom revelation. The trial became a media frenzy. French heiress accused of poisoning husband. It was everywhere. Margot tried to frame me. Claimed I drugged Laurent and blamed her. But the video was undeniable. Her voice. Her plan. Her history. Laurent woke up 10 days into the trial. Weak, confused, but alive. He testified. He remembered Margot's threats. He remembered the pill she forced on him. He even remembered catching her one night, crushing something into a wine glass. The jury took 3 hours. Guilty. The inheritance clause. You'd think that was the end. But no. Laurent had rewritten his will while recovering. He left Margot nothing. Instead, he left everything to Daniel, and to me. Because I saved his life. But Daniel, heartbroken and betrayed by his mother, didn't want the estate. So he gave it to me. I want a clean start, he said. She destroyed everything here. Maybe you can rebuild it. And I did. I turned the estate into a women's refuge. For abused spouses. For silenced voices. For women like me. Her prison letters. Margot writes from prison. Every week. She says she regrets everything. She blames love. Power. Control. I don't respond. Because sometimes silence is the best justice. The glass that didn't break. There's still one glass from that night. It sits in a glass box in my study. The one she spiked. I keep it as a reminder. Of what hatred can do. Of what silence protects. And of how sometimes, just sometimes, justice is served cold, in a crystal goblet of red wine. The blood of the Delacroix. The estate was quiet, almost too quiet. It had been 3 months since Margot Delacroix was found guilty of attempted murder, sentenced to 18 years in prison without parole. The verdict should have brought peace. But peace is never what it seems when it involves a family like the Delacroix. I stood on the upper balcony of the estate, overlooking the vineyards that had fed the family fortune for generations. The morning sun warmed my skin, but my heart stayed cold. Not because of Margot. Not because of what she did. But because I could still feel her presence. Like a shadow that refused to lift. Daniel had left France. The day after the will was finalized, he kissed me softly on the forehead and whispered, "I need to find out who I am without all of this." He left for South America. No forwarding address. Just a postcard every few weeks. I didn't blame him. He needed to heal. But I stayed. Because the Delacroix legacy wasn't just luxury, it was a curse. And I needed to understand it. I needed to know why Margot had been so desperate to hold on to it. Why she chose murder over freedom. The deeper I dug, the more I uncovered. Lawrence's journals, hidden inside a false wall in his study, revealed more than just marital bitterness. They spoke of secret deals with offshore entities, investments in private intelligence firms, and even references to Project Seraphim. It sounded like fiction. But the more I investigated, the clearer it became. This family wasn't just powerful. They were dangerous. The black envelope. It arrived one rainy Thursday morning. A black envelope. No return address. Just my name, Isabelle Delacroix, in golden ink. Inside was a single photograph. It showed Margot in prison, sitting across from a man in a tailored suit. His face was half turned away, but something about him was familiar. I flipped the photo. A note was written on the back. She wasn't working alone. Don't trust the staff. They are watching. No signature. My pulse raced. I rushed to the estate's surveillance room, where I had installed upgraded cameras and security feeds. I scanned through the last 3 weeks of footage. Nothing unusual. Until I saw her. Celine. The head housekeeper. She had been with the family for over 25 years, practically raised Daniel. But in the footage, I noticed her moving about the house at odd hours. Checking doors that didn't need checking. Making calls outside in the dead of night. I watched a clip from just 2 nights ago. Celine entered the wine cellar, where Lawrence's private reserve was kept, and emerged 10 minutes later with a velvet pouch tucked into her apron. Something was wrong. I went to confront her. Poison repeats itself. Celine stood in the main hallway, dusting an antique mirror. "Bonjour, madame," she said with a thin smile. "I need to speak to you. Now." Her smile faltered. "Of course." I led her to the library, shut the door, and faced her. "What were you doing in the wine cellar at 1:27 a.m.? Her face froze. I often inspect the cellar for temperature balance. Some bottles. Don't lie to me, Celine. What were you hiding in your apron? There was a long silence. Then, her posture straightened. Her eyes sharpened. you think you're safe here? That woman raised kings. And you? You're just a substitute. A lowborn wife who should have died at that dinner table. My blood turned to ice. So you are still loyal to her? I was never disloyal, she said. Unlike you. I pressed the intercom on the bookshelf behind me. 2 security guards I'd hired entered instantly. Take her, I said. Search her room, her phone, everything. As they dragged her out, she shouted back, you think this is over? You have no idea who Margot was working with. She wasn't wrong. I was only beginning to uncover the web. The widow's file. Among Celine's belongings, we found a file labeled LOS. Inside were photographs, documents, and audio transcriptions of calls, my private conversations. Even a recorded phone call with my attorney. She had been spying on me. At the bottom of the file was a name. Lucien Aubertin Savage. A former intelligence officer. Now a corporate spy for hire. Lawrence journals mentioned him once. Only once. Lucien is Margot's failsafe. If I ever fall, she'll activate him. And I had just stepped into the line of fire. Lucien's game. I hired a private investigator to track Lucien. He lived in Geneva under a different name, Victor Gaspard. He traveled frequently. Always first class. Always alone. No paper trail. No digital footprint. But I sent him a message anyway. A single envelope. Inside, a photo of Margot in chains. And one sentence. Tell me everything, or you're next. He responded. Not with a visit. But with a package. Inside were 10 USB drives. And a note. If you're reading this, Margot is either dead or imprisoned. She hired me to eliminate you. But now the payment has stopped. I have no loyalty. Only secrets. Here's yours. The drives contained hours of surveillance, of me, Daniel, Laurent. Even Margot herself. Conversations in cars, behind locked doors, during family vacations. One file stood out. Audio, Chateau recording, August 4th. Margot's voice. She thinks this is about Daniel. About love. No. It's about bloodlines. Control. Isabel doesn't know that I've been preparing this estate for a bigger purpose. She was just the final test. What if she finds out? She won't. And if she does, she won't live long enough to use it. The Delacroix Doctrine. The next day, I went deeper into the estate's archives. I broke into the oldest wing, the sealed library. What I found shook me. Inside was a binder, wrapped in aged velvet. The Delacroix Doctrine. It was a manifesto. A generational blueprint. The family had been building a private, elite network that spanned finance, politics, and military intelligence. Every marriage was arranged. Every heir trained in manipulation. Every outsider eliminated. Margot didn't just want to protect the estate. She wanted to protect the doctrine. And I had violated it. I wasn't part of the bloodline. I was the foreigner who married into power. And they weren't finished with me yet.